Ladies and gentlemen, time to turn it up. We've got exciting guests, fun, and surprises. So, welcome to the Talk Show Maven Tonight Show with celebrity interviewer, award-winning host, the queen of interview marketing and conversion, Raven Blair Glover.
You know, I told you during the show we have an exclusive for you today, and boy, do we ever. So I want you to get relaxed, get ready for this one because it is amazing. You're going to walk away with so many golden nuggets. So I'm going to encourage you right now to grab something to write with because you're going to hate if you miss something important. But the good news is you can go back and listen to the replay. How cool is that? If you're just joining us and you're saying, who is this crazy lady? My name is Raven Blair Glover. No, my name is Raven, the Talk Show Maven, and this is the Talk Show Maven Tonight Show. And I've got to tell you, I am so proud to introduce our next guest, our featured guest. This is an exclusive interview just for you. He's the founder of the JS and M Sales and Marketing Inc. out of San Diego, California, not too far from me. Michael Senoff is his name, and you know what? He's the world's #1 business and marketing detailed interview website. It's called hardtofindseminars.com. Now, write that down because you're going to hear a lot more about what Michael does, but you want to really stay plugged into hardtofindseminars.com. He's also an inventor, which brings us to the reason for this interview today because, as you know, I've just invented the phenomenal, amazing hat wrap. And this man here, he knows all about inventions, and he's going to share some insider secrets, some do's and some don'ts, and some tips and some strategies, so stay tuned. Over the course of Michael's career, he has created and sold numerous niche market products, including specialty pens, exercise equipment, and mobile phone accessories. Tonight, Michael is going to share with you his system for developing and marketing both physical and information products. He's going to share his biggest mistakes and takeaways that he made over the course of his career, and you're going to hear what has worked for him and what has not. Michael has promised to share with you, my amazing listeners, a foolproof way for coming up with your own idea and invention to generate a full-time income manufacturing, marketing, and controlling your own product. That's right. So without further ado, if you sit and stand up, and if you stand and sit down, because the man of the hour is here, I'm talking about none other than Michael Senoff. And, hey, don't get it twisted. I'm his #1 fan. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Raven, yay, I'm here. I am doing great, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it, and I am glad to be here to talk to your wonderful listeners and viewers.
Oh, wow, we got so much to share, Michael. You know what? It feels so good to know that you're just right down the street from me. No longer am I in Houston, Texas. I'm just a little ways away from you.
I know. If we got in our cars, we could have lunch together today.
I know. Boy, we could talk for a long time for sure. Well, we got a lot to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, Michael, what is the purpose of your talk today that we're going to be covering with the listeners?
I want to keep it simple. I don't want to just come onto your show and just try and teach your listeners and viewers a bunch of stuff because that's kind of boring. So I just want to share some of my stories with you, and I'll share my stories and maybe the stories of others, and maybe some of the lessons from these stories will hit home, and your listeners can walk away from this interview remembering something because, you know, when you listen to a bunch of stuff and someone trying to teach you stuff, you forget it after an hour. So hopefully I'm going to tell some stories that are going to really cement these ideas in your listeners' heads. And let's start with one right now. How about a story? It's called Hurt, Pain, Agony. Now, Mark Spitz, I don't know if you guys remember, Mark Spitz, who in 1972 won 6 Olympic gold medals, he went to Indiana University, and his coach was a guy named Doc Councilman. He was the greatest swim coach in American history. Now, the first day of practice every fall, they take all the guys going out for the swim team out on the swim deck. Now, this is the first thing they did. They didn't even get in the water. And there was a little banner that hung over the pool. And the banner only had 3 words on it: hurt, pain, agony. And so Doc said, okay, we're going to spend a lot of time together this year, and if you want to be part of this swim team, every afternoon you have to come here for a couple hours and you have to swim until you hurt. But if you have higher goals and you want to be an NCAA champ, you want to be a national champ, you have to come here every afternoon and swim until you're in pain. Now, if you still have higher goals and you want to be the next Mark Spitz, you want to be a world champion or an Olympic champion, you have to come here and train until you're in agony. He said, so it's your choice, hurt, pain, agony. He said, all of you, I wouldn't have recruited you unless I knew each and every one of you had world-class potential inside of you. Now, here's the interesting thing. Whether you choose to hurt, have pain, or have agony, by the time you take a shower and go to dinner, everything goes back to normal. So it's how much you are willing to give in that 2 to 2.5 hour workout every day that's going to determine your destiny. So what I would say to the listeners, it's not going to be as bad as that. My ideas and my stories that I share with you are going to be pretty simple compared to what these swimmers who want to be Olympic gold medal champions have to go through. So I'm going to talk exactly about some of the things I've invented and some of the products I've developed. And if your listeners stay until the end of my final story, I'm going to make one of the world's most unbelievable offers that's going to help them. But you have to stick with me until the end. I'm going to make this talk very interesting, and you'll leave here with a formula that you can start today to get out of the rat race, to get out for working from your boss, and go develop a product that you control and a product that you can sell and hopefully retire rich on.
Wow, that's interesting, Michael. Let me ask you this. What is the one big common denominator you want the listeners to listen out for as you begin to share your experience?
All right, that's a good question. So I thought about this, and I came up with 3 words: better, faster, and cheaper. So the formula that I want your listeners to look out for and listen for as I go through my stories is this. Find something out there that maybe you're interested in and that is already successful. Now, what I'm talking about, maybe a physical product or a digital or information product, just find something that's successful, that's selling. Then research how it's made, then do it better. Find something that's successful, do the same thing, but make it better. Now, I'm not talking about stealing someone's product. If you find a product that's patented or that's protected under any kind of copyright, trademark, or patents, you don't want to do that. But there's plenty of products that you can see are doing very well in markets, that there's huge lines of people lining up to buy it, and look at what they're doing and come up with ideas on how to do it better. And another real important thing in this formula is you want to be the manufacturer. You don't want to have to buy it from someone else. You want to learn how to make it yourself, okay? And then you also want to try and come up with some exclusivity where you are in the toll position, where anyone who wants your product is going to have to come through you. So this will make more sense as we talk about some of the products that I've done.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, so that formula again was better, faster, cheaper?
Yeah, better, faster, cheaper could be the formula. It could be better, faster, prettier, better, faster, more value. Just find something that's working and do it better, is as simply as I can put it.
Yeah, kind of put your flavor on it, huh?
That's right.
I love that. I often tell my clients when I'm teaching them radio and interviewing, go listen to other hosts and look at what you like, what's not really you, and how you can put your extra spin, your extra twist, your extra flavor on it. So kind of the same thing. It's basically what you're saying.
That's right.
So it's really that simple. You can look at something that you like and say, this would be really cool if it had this, and then start to investigate and research and see if you can make it a different way.
Yeah, isn't that what you did with your product?
Yeah, well, actually with my hat wraps, there wasn't any, but my thing, we'll talk about that later, was me having the problem of carrying so many hats.
That's right.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying, and that alone inspires a lot of people that are saying, wow, I would love to invent something. I don't know how to do it. I can't think of it from the ground, so to speak, up, but I can make something better. I like that, Michael. That's really cool. One of the jobs you did in the past that got you to think and act the way you do? Because it's something special about Michael Senoff.
That's a great question, and I'd love to share that. But I want to play a little game with you, Raven. Let's see how smart you are. See if you can guess who this is. Shall we get started?
Okay, let's get started.
All right, she went to Clearwater High School in Florida. She graduated in 1971, and then she went to Florida State University. She wasn't that good of an athlete, so every time she tried out for a team, she got cut by the coach. At Florida State, she was an okay student. She wanted to go to law school, but she flunked the admissions test. She got such low grades, no law school would take her. So she started selling fax machines and copiers door to door. Now, the great Wayne Dyer had an audio program called How to Be a No-Limit Person. Her father gave her that program, and she used to listen to those 6 audio tapes so much that she had them memorized. She didn't just listen to them once, she listened to them over and over again. She was a junior in high school, and her friends never wanted to drive with her because they didn't want to listen to those damn tapes. She listened to these tapes obsessively. So she's doing okay. She's a really good salesperson, and she becomes a regional sales trainer. Then she has an idea, and she wanted to get her idea patented. It was for a woman's product. In Georgia, she wanted to get a female patent attorney, but there weren't any. So she went to the local Barnes & Noble bookstore, and she got a book on how to patent a product herself. She saved up $6,000 to $7,000, and she patented her own product. The patent did pretty well because she's become the youngest female billionaire ever. Do you know who this is?
Who is it, Michael?
Her name is Sarah Blakely, the inventor of Spanx.
Oh, my God, I should know that.
Have you heard of those Spanx?
Are you kidding? People love Spanx. Us women, we love it.
That is her story. So everything she did up until that got her to where she is now. And so, look, we've all had failures before. We've all had successes. It's all part of the process. And for a lot of years, especially in my younger years, I was doing things the wrong way. I was on a path that was never going to take me to financial freedom. And hopefully I've learned from that. So I want your listeners to understand they will never gain true financial success and freedom working for someone else. Very few do it. You may have all the money you can spend, but you won't have all the time because you'll still be working for someone else. So when I was young, I kind of learned this lesson with my first job when I was 15. I was scooping ice cream at a place called Dipper Dan's around the corner from where I used to live. It was a terrible job, making $2.85 an hour. I remember I got fired probably after the first week. And actually I learned Kevin from Shark Tank. His very first job was scooping ice cream, too, and he got fired, too. Now, he's a lot wealthier than I am, but I thought that was an interesting coincidence. I then bussed tables at a restaurant called Round the Corner. They had 26 different kinds of hamburgers, and that was a very labor-intensive minimum wage job. I've washed dishes. I've worked at seafood restaurants, one in particular called S&W Seafood. I've shucked oysters for a living, which is a brutal job. I've worked in a racquetball center, one particularly called Court South Racquetball, and I remember cleaning the bathrooms and dragging these huge mats for exercise class through these tiny little doors, very physically demanding, even at my young age. And then it got a little bit better because I started bussing tables at a rib place called Tony Roma's Ribs, and it was a lot of fun because we had a lot of our friends working there, and what was good about it is my minimum wage was lower, but I was making tips. So, hey, I'm starting to get somewhere. I'm making tips, and I had a little bit of control over how much tips I would make by how much help I would offer the waitresses who were on my shift. And then we're transitioning a little bit, and I was always looking for better, and so I started doing some entrepreneurial things, and as a teenager, I would cut yards. I had a lawnmower, and I would knock on doors and ask homes if they would like their yard cut. So I had a little lawn mowing business, and then I would also install door viewers, the little peepholes that go in the middle of the door.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, I started getting into little direct sales, knocking on doors, saying I'm the guy in the neighborhood who does the door viewers, and I'd have a little cordless drill where I could drill the hole, and you'd buy the little door viewers from Home Depot, and anyone can go and do that and go make $20, $30 an hour if they're willing to knock on doors, even today. And I also learned that when you're selling door to door, you want to have more than one thing to sell. So I was taught to have another product to sell while I'm at the door, and then so I started offering to paint the address numbers on the curbs. So if someone liked and wanted the door viewer, there was a real good chance I can get them to repaint the numbers on their curb at the same time. And then there was something else I could even sell. I could say, hey, would you like your gutters cleaned? So I started learning the art of upselling. You sell one thing, but you always have 2 or 3 things to sell. I sold candy and greeting cards door to door. All of that was great, and I was making more money doing that rather than working a minimum wage job. But I wanted more. I was always on the lookout for more leverage, less work. More money, less work. Call it being lazy, but maybe that laziness in me drove me to look and always be open for a better way.
I like that. Always be open for a better way. You've done a lot, a whole lot, and I know that you did the tie-dye T-shirt business. Now, what made you decide to do that? And I think that was during your college days, right?
That's right. That's a great question, and I want to tell you that story. But first I want to tell you another story, and it's a story of Tom Mopother. He was a terrible student in high school. He had learning difficulties, and he went to Glen Ridge High School in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. Now, the only thing that Tom was known for was wrestling. He was a below-average wrestler. In the first year, he didn't win any matches. But by the time Tom was a junior, he was okay as a wrestler. And his coach said, Tom, next year, you're going to have a winning record. So Tom, he was a little kid, only weighed about 135 pounds. And every summer, he and his mother had the same argument. Tom wanted to play football. His mom said, Tom, look at you. You're a little kid. If you play football, you're going to get hurt. So before Tom's senior year, he said, Mom, it's my last year of high school. If I don't play football now, I'll never play. So his mother relented, and just as she predicted, after 5 weeks, Tom got hurt. It was such a bad leg injury, the school doctor wouldn't clear him for wrestling for his senior year. So this was his thing. Tom loved wrestling. He was devastated. And Tom was out of sports his senior year, so he went out for the lead part in a school play called Guys and Dolls. And they're just getting ready to open the show, and the girl who has the female lead in Guys and Dolls has a stage mom there. The mom thought her daughter was going to be the next Barbra Streisand. So this stage mother made sure there was a New York City theatrical agent at the opening of the Guys and Dolls play. And the agent shows up, and he saw the girl, and he saw nothing really in the girl. And he saw little Tom Mopother, and he said, this kid's got something going for him. And so after the play, he spoke to Tom. He gave him his card. He said, look, Tom, I'd like you to study in New York. And 3 years later, Tom Mopother is in the movie where he's dancing in his underwear. But his name isn't Tom Mopother in the movies. He used his middle name. His full name was Tom Cruise Mopother. And that's the story of Tom Cruise. So Tom was in the right place at the right time. And when you ask me about how I got into my tie-dye T-shirts, I had gone to the University of Alabama, and I had to pay all my own bills, and I needed something to sell. I didn't really want to do bussing tables because I already had that entrepreneurial spirit. And I happened to see someone selling tie-dye T-shirts before a concert I went to. And I thought, wow, this may be a really good idea. Now, these were tie-dye T-shirts that were like Grateful Dead. You know, the band, the Grateful Dead. You know, they had the mushrooms, and they were real psychedelic looking and lots of color. And a lot of people liked that, very hippie and 60s looking. But I thought, you know, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in the South, you have a lot of very conservative people. So I thought about making a more conservative shirt that would match a different market for these beautifully colored shirts in Alabama. So listen out for my process that we talked about at the beginning. I found something that was already successful. Tie-dye T-shirts have been selling for years at the Grateful Dead concerts and in specialty stores. I didn't have a computer back then. The internet was at its infancy. So as far as research, I had to figure out, well, how the heck do I make these things? And the first thing I did is I went to the store and I bought some RIT dye. Everyone's heard of RIT composite dye. And it's not a real high-quality dye. You can't get those real bright, vibrant colors that you can with the shirts that I saw that were being sold at the concert, but I persisted. So I finally learned how to make it, and remember we talked about controlling your own product? I was able to buy the shirts myself, and I was able to make it myself, so I had a huge markup. If I was selling a shirt for $25, it may have only cost me $2 to make the shirt, and margins are really important. So I was the main source, I was the manufacturer, and when we talk about exclusivities and we talk about patents and we talk about trademarks and unique technology, you got to have a process that keeps copycats from copying you. And so I had a special process I learned over the years to be able to make a tie-dye T-shirt that was very different, and it's kind of hard to explain. If you look at the designs of tie-dye T-shirts, you have a series of folds in the shirts, and it's really nice to get a lot of white in between the folds of the shirts. And there was a special technique I used when I made my shirts that no one else could figure out. I had a look that was pretty exclusive, but my process was exclusive, something I figured out. So I had something unique that not many people, even if they tried, could figure out and copy. So I kind of had myself a toll booth position. So I started making tie-dyes, and I started selling them at the Student Union building, and my first shirts were terrible, and I was scared at first, and I didn't really want to do it. But when people were buying up my shirts, it went really good, and I ended up opening a store called Tiki Tie-Dye, and so I had a retail store right there on campus, and I was doing pretty good for a freshman and sophomore and junior in college, and I was able to pay all my bills, and it wasn't too bad. But I learned a lot. I mean, the tie-dye business was great, but there was a lot of negatives. It was the first time I owned retail space. I had high rent for the actual store. I remember it's very hot in the summers in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and my air conditioning bill was outrageous. Back then, $700 for an air conditioning bill was almost as much as my rent. I shared the building with a Domino's Pizza, the guy, Zan, who owned the whole building. It was difficult dealing with him, so I had the power bills, I had the utility bills, I had employees. It's a very labor-intensive process when you're making hundreds and even thousands of shirts, because I was also wholesaling to some of the department stores throughout the South. So I had a real business going. I had a CPA, I had a bookkeeper that was almost full-time, I had employees. It was the first time dealing with all the paperwork and all the legal issues of filing quarterly taxes, and it was a nightmare. And I realized, well, it's nice feeling important and owning this business, but after you subtract all your expenses and your costs and the hassles and having to be there and having no control over who walks into your retail store and the cost of advertising, I was like, this is not for me. I'm getting out of this business. It's just way too labor intensive. And a lot of your listeners think that their dream job or dream path to financial success would be opening up a store and waiting on people to come into your store. And I'm saying, no, that is not the best way to go at all. It's very expensive, and you're soon going to find out how difficult it is to make a profit in doing that. This reminds me of the song by Garth Brooks. It's called Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. Have you ever heard that song?
No, I haven't, but I love the title.
All right, it's a story about his high school girlfriend who dumped him, and she was all he wanted in his life, and he prayed to God that they would be together forever. So years later, he was at his high school football game. He was married already, and he couldn't have been happier, and he saw his old girlfriend there. And he asked himself, what did I ever see in her? It would have been a mistake if he ever married her. Thank God for unanswered prayers. And it would have been a mistake for me to stay in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and to gut out this retail tie-dye T-shirt business.
There's a lot of golden nuggets in the story that you shared about Tom Cruise, all the way to you sharing about you being in the tie-dye business. And your process is clearly outlined in that, for sure. And so I think what the listeners will definitely get from this is that, you can almost take any passion that you have, anything that you gravitate to or resonates with you, and like you said, you can put your own spin on it and make it better and create something. But Don't immediately start thinking about, I'm going to open up a store, I'm going to go to this building, I'm going to open up an office. And I know you're going to get more into that. There's so many easier, faster ways, as you say, to do it nowadays, where you have more control and you don't have that overhead.
That is correct.
Overhead will drain you and kill your spirit and your passion.
That's right.
Did you ever try MLM marketing?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. I was looking to get out of my retail store, and I was open to looking for new stuff. And my brother, who had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee, he had left the University of Alabama, and he got a job with a corporation. So he did the typical route, getting a job with a company that still today, he works with the same company after 25 years. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted out of the tie-dye T-shirt business and out of Tuscaloosa. It was time for me to move on. So I moved in with him in Nashville, Tennessee. I had brought a lot of my remaining tie-dye T-shirt inventory, and I remember I'd go back and do some direct mail. I'd walk around with these shirts, and I was selling my remaining inventory to still generate an income to some retail stores in the Nashville area. I got into some schemes where I think I invested in this robot calling machine, and then I got pitched for multi-level marketing. And multi-level marketing looked really good. It showed a way that you could really get rich. And I remember getting into it. What I liked about it was there was some fantastic training, and there were some great leaders in the multi-level marketing industry. They really knew how to get people excited about the money, so they would show huge checks, $20,000 checks. And I remember watching a video, and it was for a company called Nu Skin. There was a guy named Mark Yarnell. He was one of the top Nu Skin distributors, and he was right in San Diego, and he lived on the bay, and he was talking, and you could see the beautiful bay behind him, and you could see the sun shining. And I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. It's wintertime. It is cold, and you see the sailboats, and I fixated on those checks that he was talking about, and I saw that sunshine, and it was a dream of mine to go to California. And I go, I want to go to San Diego, California, right where that guy is. That is where I want to be. So I had a friend from University of Alabama who was open to doing the same thing, and we got in our cars and we drove across country. It was the last time I drove across country, and this was in 1995. We drove out from Nashville, Tennessee to San Diego, California, and I remember that experience driving across country. It was a wonderful experience, and I remember rolling into California and how the street lights looked different, and I was going after that California dream, of financial independence. So I was excited. So I got into California, and there I was getting into multi-level marketing. And Raven, it was so tough. I mean, those $20,000 checks, all that money didn't go to that one person. They had to pay their downlines, and I learned very few people make real money in the multi-level marketing industry. The closure rate of these businesses is in the 90%, and people equate them to pyramid schemes, and you have to go to your family and friends, and I didn't want to do that. I don't want to approach my family and friends on something that I don't know much about, and many of the products are inflated and overpriced. So I pretty much failed at multi-level marketing.
I get exactly what you're talking about. Been there, done that, wore the T-shirt and drank out the coffee cup, Michael, and felt the same way. Good education there, though, but it was a lot of stuff that I was not willing to do, so I definitely get what you're saying. So what did you do after you failed MLM?
Well, I kind of went back to my little formula. So there was an MLM company that we were doing when I was in California, and I don't remember the brand name of it, but they were selling a product which was really unique. It was a skin barrier cream. So it almost looked like a large can of shaving cream, and you would put this and apply it onto your hand and onto your skin, and it would offer UV protection, but it was almost like an invisible glove. So once you rub this stuff on your skin, you could take all kinds of oil and grease and dirt and put it on your hands, and it wouldn't stick to your skin, and then you could wash it off under the sink. So what I liked about the product is it had a huge market. I mean, do you know there are a few people without hands, but everywhere you look, people have hands, and this product offered some nice advantages, and it was really doing well in the MLM industry. So let's take a look at my formula, okay? I found something that was already successful. It was being marketed in the multi multi-level marketing industry. I did research, so I found out what the product was, and I went to the library, and I found a company who manufactured the product in the U.S. And then I learned how to source it. I learned that there's something called private label, meaning you could buy the product from the manufacturer. And it does break my rule a little bit because at this stage I wasn't educated enough to learn how to manufacture this product myself. But still, I could buy it very inexpensively, maybe $1 to $1.50 per can, but I could brand it. I could private label it and brand the product myself. And so we started selling our own version of this product, and we named it Skin Guard. Our labeling and our packaging was far superior than what the multi-level marketing company had. So it was private labeled. We had something unique. Most people wouldn't know how to go to a private label manufacturer and how to source this product. So the effort and the research that I did at the library precluded others from trying to do the same. There was a little bit of an entry to barrier. And so we had a little toll booth position where if someone wanted our Skin Guard product, it was our phone number on the label. Someone had to call us. And we didn't really have much success with it. We got it into some distributors. It was very difficult. But the one thing that really made it hard is I had 2 other partners. Now, before I tell you about them, I want to tell you a story about trust. Fire, water, and trust are walking in the woods. And they're deep in the woods, and all of a sudden, one of them says, "Hey, what are we going to do if we get lost from each other?" And Fire said, "Oh, don't worry, just look for the smoke. That's where I'll be." And Water said, "Oh, don't worry, if we get lost from each other, just look for the green grass. That's where I'll be." And Trust said, "You better worry, because if you lose me, you'll never find me again." So what happened is we had some trust issues with one of our partners. And also, when you have partners, I know when you're starting an invention and you want to tackle a new product or a new invention, it's a little scary. You don't want to look stupid. People are going to say you'll never be able to do it. They'll laugh at you. You're going to have those people in your family. They're going to put you down. And it almost seems like the whole world is against you. So to kind of lessen the blow, you want someone to come on in with you and maybe get a partner, maybe ask for someone to help finance it. And the lesson I learned is if you have partners, you got to split the money with them, number one. And go back to your number one reason. What is this all about? Why are you in business? You want to create financial independence and freedom for yourself, okay? And partners are just like marriages and relationships. And what happens to most of them?
They break up.
They break up. But you can't break up from yourself unless you quit. So I encourage your listeners, if you're thinking about a new invention or a new idea or a new product, gut it out and go alone. Experience that agony, whether you have to research and do all the work 2.5 hours each day. Because after all that's done, that pain's going to go away, and you're going to be the one who controls everything. You won't have to answer to a partner. You won't have to go ask them for money. You won't have to feel indebted to them because one guy's providing the money and you got to do all the work. You can end up becoming a slave to your partner, and that's what was happening with that skin barrier cream. So I learned the lesson. I wanted something all on my own. I didn't want to have to answer to anyone, and I wanted real control.
Love it, Michael, and you are so right, man. That was amazing words of wisdom. So I hope all of our listeners grabbed onto that, because so many times we want a partner because we feel like it'll be a little bit easier and things like that, and it ends up being pain. You end up breaking up, like you said, friendships and all kind of stuff happening. Not all the time, but a good majority of the time. So good lessons there for sure. How did you finally break away from your partners?
Well, the partnership was dissolving, and I was pretty much in a desperate situation. I was running out of money, and I needed something to sell. I knew if I had a product that was my own, that I could sell it. So I saw this product in a magazine. It was a counterfeit money detector pen, and it was a pen. And I will tell you, it was a patented product, okay? And it was a pen that you could take and mark on a $5 bill or a 10 or a 20 on U.S. currency. And when you mark the pen on the money, it would turn a color. It would either turn black, which means the bill was counterfeit, or it would be yellow, the color of the chemical, which means the bill was genuine. And I figured if I could learn how to make that pen, I'd have my own product. I could go door to door. I could get on the phone, and I can sell these counterfeit money detector pens. So let's look at my formula, okay? We're going to find a product that's doing well, and I knew this product was doing well. I did my research, so I figured, what the heck is it that makes this product work? And I remember I would walk down to a coffee bar and use the payphone, and I was calling ink manufacturers and chemists trying to figure out what was it in this counterfeit money detector pen that made it work. And I was on the phone with an ink manufacturer called National Ink, and they were right here in San Diego, and the chemist was brilliant. And I remember saying, hey, have you ever seen those money detector pens? Well, what is it that makes those work? And he goes, oh, that's iodine. And so there's a chemical reaction in iodine. If you take a tincture of iodine from your drugstore and you put a drop on a regular piece of paper you have around the house, it would make a black mark. And that is a chemical reaction between the iodine and the starch in the paper. They use starch to make paper stiff, just like when you want to iron your dress shirts. You want to spray the dress shirt with starch, it makes it stiff so it doesn't wrinkle, right?
Yeah.
So when you take that same iodine and you put it on our U.S. currency, you will not get that reaction, because the way they make U.S. currency, they don't use starch in the paper. So it's not going to turn black. Now, I also did research on patents, and to own a patent and to have a valid patent, you have to have a totally original idea. So because we had this starch complex chemical reaction, that's all this other company was doing. They were just using iodine, and they had a utility patent on it. But I knew better, and maybe what they were trying to do is patent their formula. Maybe they had a little bit of alcohol in there, they had a little bit of iodine, they had a little bit of this or whatever. So I felt like it was okay to go ahead and make this product, but I was going to make it better. So I branded it better, and I called it the Cash Cup. And so I learned through trial and error how to manufacture pens without any machinery. I had to learn all the components of a pen. You have a barrel, you have a plug, you have a tip, you have a reservoir. The reservoir is the little cotton tube inside the marking pen that absorbs the ink or absorbs the juice. So I had to learn the trade names of a pen so I could source these products. So what was really great about these pens, my cost of manufacturing one complete product was about 17 cents. And that includes the labor, the chemicals, everything, all the parts of the pen. So I had a product that provided real value, and I hired a little sales team, a sales force. You can see maybe in the picture on your video, I created a little direct selling kit so a salesman could come and they could buy a kit and they could buy 100 pens and they could go out and demonstrate the pen door to door. And so I was in the counterfeit money detector pen business. I had people coming to my apartment assembling the pens. I did some direct mail where I was mailing out to people in the mail order business. And so what I did is I did it better. The dry mark pen was a thinner pen. I offered more juice. I did a larger marker. I had better branding, and I undercut the cost. So I did it cheaper, I did it better, and I had a manufacturing process that I spent time and learned how to do that no one else was willing to do. Everyone else would have to go to an assembler. There's pen manufacturing companies that you would have to farm out, and they're going to charge you probably 25 to 35 or 40 cents to assemble each one of these pens for you. So no one could compete with me on price because I had a unique process. And remember we talked about my special process in making those tie-dye T-shirts? Mm-hmm. So we had something similar. I didn't have a patent on it, but I was free to compete with the other pen. And then we found businesses that were already buying the pen, and we called on those businesses. For example, all the Costcos around the country, we were selling directly to all the Costcos. We weren't selling to put them in the stores for resale. We were selling them to the stores so they would use them at all of their registers. And so that was my very first pen product, and it did really well. I did need money, and I broke my rule a little bit. I was building a real business, and I did borrow a small loan of $5,000 from my dad, and he agreed agreed. He didn't give me a hard time, and I was able to pay him back in a very short time. And I don't think he charged me interest, but I paid him every penny back. And so I had a valuable little business. I could manufacture something that not too many people could make for a cost that no one could compete with. And I learned that, well, what else could I put in this pen that would solve a problem? And then I remember being in a drugstore, and remember back in the day where this is before digital photography, when you would get your pictures developed, you bring your film in, and then you go pick up your pictures, and because of the flash from the camera, you'd get a picture where the person's eyes are red eye. So that was a real problem when you got your photos back. So there was a company selling a pen called a red eye remover pen, and it was a pen that had a cyan, which is almost like a turquoise blue ink. And if you took that turquoise ink and you dotted it right on the red of the eye, it would change the color of the red to like a brown color. So you could fix your really good photos and take the red eye out. And it was a real nice pen. And you know, some of these art supply companies, they have these real fancy tips. And guess how much this pen was selling for?
How much?
$17. So I already knew I could manufacture a pen for 17 cents. And this pen was in all the Long's drugstores. So remember my formula. I found something that was already successful. It was already being sold in stores all over the country. I did it faster, I did it cheaper, and I did it better. I created a little display. So instead of selling them individually in a package for $17, I sold a box of 100 of them that a retail store could order. They could set up a little display, and I had a little testing demo card. So the customer, when they saw it, they could test it on a bunch of little red eye dots that I had right on the package. I demonstrated the product. I sold them 100 at a time, and I wholesaled them for $1.50 each. So they would retail for $3. Some stores would sell them for $4, and some would sell them for $5. Now, it only cost me 17 cents, and I was taking a product from 17 cents and wholesaling them for $1.50 each. You may see in the picture the boxes and boxes of my red eye pens, and I think over the years we sold 500,000 pens all combined, not just the red eye pens, but I made another pen which was an invisible ink pen, and this was a pen that had an invisible ink that was only visible if you shined a UV light on it, an ultraviolet light. So we sold it as an ID pen where anyone could take this pen, they could mark their stereo, their phones, their computers, and in the event that they were stolen, many of the police rooms, when they would recover stolen property, would look for markings on them, especially UV markings. This was a product that would replace those engravers. Remember, you could borrow an engraver and scribble your name all over your valuables?
Yes, the process was much easier having those invisible pens.
Now, here's the funny thing. This pen business, I've been selling pens since 1996. That's when I started. I still have accounts that I established in 1996 that still buy from me. I just shipped out 300 of my invisible ink pens to an account that I established back in 1996. It's 2016. It's 20 years. I've had an account that's been ordering from me for 20 years. And because I understand the process on how to make them, I can make them right here at home. All I need is a little table, and I need my pen parts, which I know where to order them from, and I have the process on how to make them. And I even market a product on my site, hardtofindseminars.com, called How to Get into the Invisible Ink Pen Business. Anyone can do it. And it's been a nice little business. But for your listeners, just follow my formula. That's exactly what I did. I used my formula to create my own product. I had a process that was unique, so it created a barrier to entry, and that's what I did with my pen business.
Wow, that's amazing. Boy, I tell you, Michael, your mind, you just go there. You're not afraid to go there, are you? You're not afraid to just give it a shot? Or do you ever just get in your head and say, I'm not going to do that, and start trying to make everything perfect? Or do you just kind of just say, I'm going to give it a try?
Sometimes when people's back is up against the wall, there's no choice. You just have to go for it. I think your listeners have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to make mistakes. There's no way you're going to gain success unless you're willing to fail. That's what keeps people from trying. They're afraid to fail. But what you have to understand, failure is part of the success process. So you got to be willing to fail, and you got to be willing to try things. I always tell my wife, I'm a trier. I try a lot of stupid stuff, and I fail at a lot of them, but I'm a trier. I'm never going to quit trying.
That's a good thing to think about. Never, ever quit. And if you're just tuning in, this is the Talk Show Maven Tonight Show. And hey, I'm Raven, Blair Glover, known by many as Raven, the Talk Show Maven, queen of interview, marketing, and conversion. And we've got the man here today, I kid you not. I am talking about the founder of JS&M Marketing, as well as the owner of the world-renowned HardToFindSeminars.com. Yes, I said world-renowned website. It's a business and marketing detailed interview website. If you haven't been there, you better go there. It's www.hardtofindseminars.com. And when you do, take your favorite drink with you. Sit in your favorite chair, because you're going to be there a while. And put on your favorite headphones and tune in. I call myself his #1 fan, but to be honest, he's got so many fans, I don't know. I just push myself ahead because I stay plugged into him. I learned how to better my skill of interviewing from Michael. He does it a totally different way. Nobody does it like Michael. That's all. So it's like nobody does it like Oprah. He has his way, but I've learned so much from him like this. Hey, you're tuned in to the Talk Show Maven Tonight Show, and for more exclusive interviews like this, be sure to check out our radio station, Positive Programming 24/7. You can get more exclusive interviews just like this over at AmazingWomenOfPower.com. So welcome back to the show, Michael. We were talking about your pen, so you still sell them. So do you actually have your pen business?
I don't actively promote the pen business, but I do still have accounts that call and order pens from me. It's not often, and it's not a main part of my business today, but I'm not going to turn those orders down. And like I said, I already know how to make them, so it's no big deal. And I will get them made up, and I'll get them shipped out, and I'll keep making money from these pens, from an idea and the action I took over 20 years ago. You know, it reminds me of Gelson's Only Rule. Have you ever heard of Gelson's Only Rule?
No.
Well, at Montclair State University, they had a tremendous men's basketball coach. His name was Coach Oliver S. Gelston. I don't know how much you know about basketball, but he's credited with a winning basketball tradition at Jersey City State. During his 8-year tenure, his teams won conference titles in 1961, 1964, and 1965. Now, Coach Gelston was ranked 5th in all-time victories at NCAA Division III colleges with 343. He presently has 359 career victories. Now, Gelston would remind each player of his only rule for winning before the big game. And every year on the first day of practice, he would say, all right, guys, you're all freshmen, you're all from different high schools, and you've all had different coaches. Your high school coaches all had different rules for you. But if you want to play for me here at Montclair State, I have only one rule. It's called Coach Gelston's Only Rule. Be at the right place, at the right time, and do the right thing. So what happened to me is these pens, it was the right time and it led me into the right place. So I had a great product, these pens, and I had to learn how to sell them. And I remember looking for information. I think I just had a computer. I was very lucky because I was living in Pacific Beach. And Pacific Beach and somewhere in New York were the very two test places for Time Warner Cable for high-speed internet. And everyone else was on these 28K and 56K dial-up modems. They were extremely slow. So I had a huge advantage. I had a high-speed internet connection, and I was trying to learn as much as I could about how to market my pens. And I learned about a guy named Jay Abraham. And Jay Abraham was a guru when it came to marketing. And the one thing I heard about him, he would sell these marketing seminars where you would go for 3 or 4 days to Los Angeles or wherever he held them, and you would pay $20,000 to go learn from him, to go to one of his seminars. Well, I'm not going to pay $20,000. I don't think I had $20,000 with my pen business at that time. All right, so let's look at my formula. So Jay Abraham was selling these huge $20,000 seminars, okay? I wasn't going to pay $20,000, so I put my formula into action. I wanted to find his information for less money. I ended up getting a list of over 900 people who paid $15,000 to $20,000 to go to the seminars. I had the phone numbers, I had the mailing addresses, I had their names. And I started getting on the phone, and I figured a lot of people go to these seminars and they come back with all the books and tapes, and they never do anything with them. And I got the names for all the people who went in California. I got on the phone. I said, hey, I've got a crazy question. By any chance, do you still have all the J. Abraham tapes and books when you went to that $20,000 seminar? And if you do, would you be willing to sell them to me? And I had a lady not far from me who sold me all her stuff, never even cracked open the cellophane seal on it, and I got everything for $50. So I started studying all this J. Abraham stuff. And then, talk about being at the right place at the right time, I remember hearing how eBay was becoming a phenomenal online business. That's where you can buy and sell anything, eBay.com. And I remember their stock going up to the roof. And I was studying all these tapes, and I was done with them. And I remember I wanted to start selling my pens online on the Internet. And I thought maybe I could sell them on eBay. So I was open to learning more about eBay. And then I was at a trade show, and I ended up buying one of the very first digital cameras. It was a camera called a Sony Movica, and this was a camera that you would insert a floppy disk into the camera, and you point the camera and you shoot, and it would put the image on the disk. Remember the little plastic disk you would put in your computer? So I now had a way to take digital pictures of my pens, and I would put them up on eBay, and after I studied all the J. Abraham stuff, I listed a set of the J. Abraham stuff that I bought for $50 up on eBay, and the first auction I sold them for $1,700. Paid $50, sold them for $1,700. I remember my very first buyer, his name is Piero. He was a guy in Australia. He may still be on my email list today. I heard from him several years ago. And then I had something successful. I go, hey, this is pretty good. Let me see if I can call some of these other people and see if I can find some more of these J. Abraham tapes. And that's what I did. I just repeated the success. I got on the phone and I was buying and selling libraries of J. Abraham marketing tapes and other marketers. So if someone went to a J. Abraham seminar, they were marketed by a guy named Gary Halbert. And so this is how I started my whole business, Hard to Find Seminars. I was the guy where you could buy seminars that J. Abraham was selling for $20,000. You can buy them from me for pennies on the dollar. So you see my formula? I found something that was working. He was kicking butt selling seminars at $20,000 a piece. I did the research and found all the people who went to the seminars. I learned how to source it by using the telephone and acquiring it, and then I learned how to sell it by listing it up on eBay, so I was the main source, almost like the manufacturer. I was getting the stuff for less than he could probably print and duplicate the material. So I had huge margins. I had some exclusivity because no one was going to go to the effort and the pain and the agony of what I did to do what I was doing. So I had myself a nice little toll booth position, and this was the beginning of my entire website, hardtofindseminars.com.
My goodness, I love that. I know that part I did know of you, but I bet a lot of the listeners did not. Because, like you said, that launched this hard-to-find seminars, and it is. When I said world-renowned, it is. People know it. It's an amazing site, and it all came from that. Again, there's your formula. You're consistent with that. This is authentic, guys. He's consistent with that. As you share your stories and as we do this interview, it just gets clearer and clearer that sometimes we make things too hard on ourselves, don't we, Michael?
Yes, we do.
So, Michael, tell me this. How long did you buy and sell the J. Abraham stuff? Because I know you had a limited supply, right?
Yeah, it was limited. Remember, he only had 900 people go through his $15,000 and $20,000 training. That was all I had on the list. And believe me, this list was old. Most of these people I couldn't get in touch with. So I would estimate maybe for every 100 names, I was able to get in touch with maybe 1, 2, or 3 out of 100 and maybe acquire a complete set of information. So I knew my time was running out. I was limited. I could only buy and resell J. Abraham program seminars for so long. So I had to start thinking ahead, and I had to look at what he did. He had created his own information products. He was putting on these events. He was recording the events. He was taping them, and then he was reselling this as information products, even to another market, to the people who weren't willing to pay the big bucks. So after he did a seminar, he has all the tapes, and he could resell and market his tapes. So let's look at my formula. I did the same thing. I started developing and creating my own information products. I copied what he did. I did it better. So I found better experts. I did better interviews than he did. I cleaned all my interviews up without any stuttering and stammering. I offered less fluff in the interviews. I got right to the meat, and I offered better value. I would sell my products for a lot less money than what he did. So over the next 10 years, I have created over 30 different information products on all aspects of business, from marketing to selling to licensing to joint ventures to barter to product development to storytelling. And anyone who's interested can go to my website at hardtofindseminars.com and look at my product library. And the information product is the best business in the world, because once you go through the hurt and the pain and the agony, you've got your product. Every time you sell it as a digital product, you keep all the money. There is no hard cost other than paying for a little bit of money to host and deliver the digital information product. There's no business better in the world than creating, developing, publishing information products. And you know about this too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know I know. And here's the thing about it. There's no shipping or any of that extra cost. It's digital. They get it right then, so they're happy. You get it shipped out via the Internet, and you're through with it, and you can do it while you're sleeping too, huh, Michael?
That's right.
Well, I am loving these stories. I'm telling you, I'm sitting in my favorite chair. I got my feet just kicked up because I'm enjoying this, Michael. Got any more of those juicy, sizzling, hot stories for us?
I do. I've got a great story. Let me share this with you. Okay, it's a story about diamonds. You like diamonds, Raven?
Yes, diamonds are a girl's best friend.
You've heard of Harry Winston Jewelers?
Mm-hmm.
All right. They're internationally one of the best, most high-priced, really top-scale jewelers. And they started in New York City. And Harry Winston, he's no longer with us, but many, many years ago when he was in the New York store, one day he got a phone call from an Arab sheik, and he said, "Mr. Winston, I'm a gem collector. Do you have this type of diamond?" And Winston says, "Oh, yes. It's in the millions, but I have it." He said, "I'll be in touch with you. I'm going to come in next week." So the next week, he took his private jet, and he landed in LaGuardia, and Winston had his top salesman meet him at the airport. He brought him back to the store, and he brought him back into the VIP room. And for 1 hour, he showed him this gorgeous diamond. And after an hour, the sheik was just about out of the store, and there was no sale made. And Mr. Winston said, "Excuse me, sir, could I have a moment with you?" And they went back into the VIP room, and 15 minutes later, Harry Winston had a check for $4 million. And the sheik was just about to go back to the airport when he said, "Mr. Winston, can I ask you something personal?" And he said, "Sure." And he said, "The man that met me at the airport that originally tried to sell me the diamond, he spent an hour with me, and is he a good salesman?" He said, "He's one of the best in the industry. He's the top person in New York. That's why I hired him. That's why I pay him so much money." And the sheik said, "Well, Mr. Winston, if he's so good, how come he spent an hour with me and he couldn't sell me, and you spent 15 minutes with me and you could?" And Harry said, "Oh, that's my trade secret. You see, he knows diamonds, but I love diamonds." You have to love your product to really be able to sell it to its highest potential. And I also was always looking for a product, not one that I used my formula on, that I copied and did it better. I was always looking for a product that was totally original and dreamed up by myself. And I finally ended up with one of those products. And what happened, this is when we had cell phones and smartphones, and we had the BlackBerry, and then the first generation of the iPhone came out, and you had texting where you had a screen that was touch sensitive. And I remember my kids, when they were young, they'd always like us to come help them fall asleep at night. So my wife would go with my younger one, and then I'd go with my older one, and we'd lay in the bed until they fell asleep. And to kill time, I would have my little BlackBerry touch screen, and I would hold my hand over my head while I'm laying on my back and play with the phone. And I had a bad rotator cuff. My shoulder was killing me, so I could only use one arm. So I couldn't hold my phone, because try laying on your back and holding your phone over your head with one arm. To use your thumb to touch the screen, you'd have to let go of the phone. And I remember dropping the phone on my face, and I was like, there's got to be something that would allow me to use my phone and move my thumb around and operate the touch screen with one hand. And so I set on a little course to invent something. And that's when, after about a year of development and thinking and coincidences, I came up with a product called the Senoff Loop. My kids wanted to name it the Senoff Loop, so I honored them. We can name it anything, but we called it the Senoff Loop. So if we're going to be famous with an invention, let's use our name in it, right? Kind of like Donald Trump. Why not? But look at my formula. I created a product that was very difficult to make. I took a lot of research to figure this thing out, to figure out how to make it. If you look at the picture there, you can see it's a round circle, and it has a little tab that pulls up, and you can stick your finger through, and you can stick it on the back of your phone or your phone case. And very importantly, you can imprint on it. I can do a 4-color imprint, and I can brand it with a Coca-Cola logo. We've sold to eBay already, and you can brand these things with any kind of logo or color. And we talked about some exclusivity. I was able to get 3 design patents on it. I have a utility patent application in place for the releasing mechanism. If you go look at the website at senoffloop.com, it's a real nifty little product. Now, there is competition on the marketplace, but nothing is elegant and nothing is simple in design is what we've developed.
Yours is so sweet. I love it. I mean, it doesn't look real bulky, like something you don't want on your phone.
Yeah, it's not bulky.
That was one of the things you considered, not just on how it was going to work, but how it was going to look, I can tell.
That's right. With this invention, I kept true to my process. I can manufacture these right on the side of my house. I learned how to cut them out. I learned how to imprint them. I learned how to get the plastic coating on them. I can do everything. I do not have to rely on anyone to make these. I can order all the postcards. I can do all the art myself. There was a time where I was paying a graphic artist in the UK to do all the art with me, but I was tired of paying her money. I just learned to do it myself. So I went through the hurt. I went through the pain, and I went through the agony. But now I've got a product I can control, and the margins on it are huge. I can make this entire product for about a quarter, for 25 cents, and I can wholesale them for $1.50 each. I can retail them for $5 each. So it's a little cottage product that I manufacture. It's got huge potential. We've sold over 10,000 of them so far, and we're just getting started. We're just getting all our final patents and stuff. So that's a unique product and something that I'm really passionate about. And we go back to the Harry Winston story, a product that I totally invented, totally original, not something copied from someone else. And it's just a lot of fun, and I keep learning. And another thing that you're going to need if you do have a winning product is you're going to need some intellectual property. If you can't make your product exclusive through a process, I mean, it's nice to have a process, but you also want to have some protection. And your listeners, I'm sure they've heard of a patent. There's 2 kinds of patents. There's a utility patent where you can get an exclusive right for an idea that you have on how it's used. And then there's a design patent, which is not quite as powerful, but has become even more and more powerful, and that is the shape and the look of your product. You can get that kind of patent protection. There's also government protection by getting a registered trademark. You can get a trademark where you can trademark a saying. For example, Donald Trump has trademarked the saying, "You're fired." So that's protected under U.S. law. No one else can use it in that same context. He owns it. So there's all kinds of ways to protect your information product. legal help with patents and trademarks can be very expensive. And I was able to get all my patent and trademark expertise for pennies on the dollar. Just like I was selling the J. Abraham tapes for pennies on the dollar, I figured out a process for buying legal help when it came to patent and trademarks for pennies on the dollar. And I did that through barter. I signed up for a retail barter club. This may be confusing to your listeners, but I learned how to buy legal services for pennies on the dollar. And I have a whole product called Barter Secrets on my website. It'll show you how to buy all kinds of products and services for 10 to 15 cents on the dollar. And it's all through a very unique process that I developed myself. I share that all with Barter Secrets. And it kind of led me to another product. I was real interested in trademarks, and I'm also interested in exercise, and I'm always trying to keep my weight down and lose weight. And, I go up and down like a lot of people who battle with their weight. And I had heard about a product called Heavy Hands. And back in the 80s, people may have seen people walking out on the road, and they have these red hand weights in their hand, and they're swinging them up and down. They look really funny, and those are called Heavy Hands. And there was an inventor, a guy named Leonard Schwartz, back in the 80s. It was at the start of the aerobic movement, and he sold millions of sets of these Heavy Hands, and he died. And a friend of mine told me about him. He goes, if you want to lose weight and get ripped and get in shape, you need to go get the book Heavy Hands, and you need to start using these. And that's exactly what I did. I found an old set of Heavy Hands, and I started using them, and I started getting stronger, and I started dropping weight. And then you add different weights on the end of them. So as you get stronger, you want more weight. And I learned that I couldn't find the weights. So my father-in-law is a machinist, so I had him machine me weights that would fit on the ends of these Heavy Hands. And then I started selling them on eBay, and then I got so enthusiastic about it. There was a demand for this product, and I ended up going after the trademark Heavy Hands, and I just acquired the trademark for Heavy Hands, and I own and control that. And I also own and control the keywords on the internet. So I get calls every day from people who used to do Heavy Hands 20 years ago, and they can't find their weights or they can't find the handles. And so I filled a need that you had 20 million people who ordered these things. I get calls every day, and I sell an improved version. I call them Heavy Hands, but I have a website called weightedhands.com. So I made improvements to the old product. Okay, I found something that was successful. I made it better. In this case, I didn't make it cheaper. Because I had exclusivity, because no one else was making this, I could control the price, and I sell them for a lot more money than they used to sell for. So there's incredible margins in these. And so I now have another wonderful invention. We're trying to get a design patent. We have a special back strap, which is an improvement over the old product. So, just going out and doing it, you're going to learn so much, and you can just take what you learn and create your own product. Just follow my formula.
Your formula is magnificent. It really is. And I got to tell you, you're a genius. I mean, I'm just listening to you just roll into one thing after another. And I heard once from another inventor, a lady's on QVC, and she actually helps people that go to market with their invention. And she told me that it's really interesting, but once you finally do that one invention, you'll find you'll do several others afterwards. And it seems like that's where you're at, Michael. It's just one thing and then led to the other. Do you believe that too?
Oh, I do. I believe in multiple streams of income. I look at all these projects that I've done, all the things we've talked about. I have incomes from all of them. I still have income from the pens. I still buy and sell libraries of J. Abraham tapes. Every once in a while I get a call from a guy who says, hey, I have a huge library of tapes. I mean, I've done it in the last year. I've sold 6 different libraries, over $1,000 each, and the profit is huge on those. I'm making money from my Senoff loop, my cell phone accessory. Actually, I still have tie-dye T-shirts out in my shed because every year during Halloween, I used to have a little retail space where I sold some of the leftover inventory, and at one time I even started making some tie-dyes. So I have a great website, so anyone looking for tie-dye, they always find me and they call me, and I sold a bunch of shirts just on Halloween because people wanted to dress up and they needed a 60s theme. So I sold multiple shirts over the last couple weeks, okay? This is a business that I started in college. I'm still making money off tie-dye T-shirts. As a matter of fact, I got a call from a guy in the clothing industry. He sent me a picture of a shirt. It was a reverse dye. It wasn't where you dye the shirt. It's where you take color out of a shirt. And he goes, can you make this? I said, yes, I can make that. So I met with him 2 Mondays ago. He brought over samples. I did all the samples up very quickly, and I met with him on Monday, just a couple days ago, and I got the account. So he'll be providing me 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen shirts at a time that I'll be not tie-dyeing, I'll be reverse dyeing them. He doesn't realize it's so quick and so easy. It's easy money. I'll be making $4.75 for each shirt. So I look at all the things I've done. Once you know how to do it, I still make money from pins. I still make money from tie-dye. I still make money from my J. Abraham tapes. I make money from my weighted hands. I make money from my cell phone loops. I make money from my information products. I make money from doing interviews. I have multiple streams of income. And if you're a trier and you get out there and do stuff, the same can be true for you.
Absolutely. I'm definitely a big believer in multiple streams of income. Ka-ching, 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 ching, ching. What about your sons? Are they kind of picking up any of this natural ability of you being an inventor? Or would you say you guys kind of invented that together, the Senoff loop?
We did. They're not hugely involved, but look, they've seen me doing this. I've always been home for my kids. That's another big thing. Mm-hmm. I'm never away on business trips. I've maybe been out of the house maybe 10 times over the last 16 years, so I'm always around. We're always in my little garage office together. Joseph, my older one, who's going to be 17 in November, he's got a desk with a big comfortable chair, and Alan's got a desk with a big comfortable chair, and it's all three of us. We're always in there, so they're always hearing me. Yeah, Alan and I, we go to swap meets and we go to street fairs, and he's done multiple sales where we would pitch our cell phone loop. Joe's doing a lot of studying. He's not quite as enthusiastic, but I know when it comes time when he's in the real world and he needs to make money, he's going to remember what Dad did, and he's going to come to me and ask for advice, and he's got a huge advantage because he's grown up with it. So that's a good question. I'm hoping both of them will follow in my footsteps.
Well, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for sharing with us. You know, as an inventor myself, I'm just thrilled to get this information because I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, okay, look at his formula, look at his formula.
That's right. Look at the formula.
And I know my listeners, they enjoyed your stories. Your stories are great. And just listening to your path, how you got started, and you keep moving forward and moving forward. Our final question is, what's next?
Well, it's hard to say, but before I answer that, I told the listeners that I would make them an incredible offer. Okay, remember my information product business? I've got over 30 different information products. So I've put together something called the Raven Wannabe Inventors Master Pack, okay? So all the most important concepts that we've talked about in a small way, I have very detailed information products. We talked about joint ventures, meaning you can find a product that's already out there, and then when you create your own bigger, better, cheaper version, I'm going to show you and teach you all the nuances and details on how to do a joint venture with someone who's already selling the most expensive one. And then we talked about the intellectual property, how I'm able to get legal advice and all kinds of products and services for 10 to 15 cents on the dollar. I've packaged my Barter Secrets product. Both the joint venture and the Barter Secrets sell currently on my website for $597 each. Then we talked about licensing. So many of my information products, the 30 different information products, were products that were already produced by someone else, and I just did a licensing deal with them. So I didn't have to produce them. I made them a little bit bigger, better, and cheaper, but a bulk of the work was already done. Raven, you and I have done a licensing deal where I license a lot of your interviews that we share on my website. That licensing secrets product will teach you everything you need to know about how to do this to shortcut your path to success. That's $597. Then there's another product I did years ago called Walmart Gold, and it was with an expert, we'll call him Joe, and he sold millions and millions of dollars to Walmart and to Target, huge retailers, and it is an unbelievable product. Shows you how to get your invention or your product into these mass merchandisers. It's not easy, but there's all kinds of methods to get them into all kinds of different markets, and that's a $997 product. And then I told you the greatest product in the world is my Audio Marketing Secrets. That's developing and publishing your own information product. Hurt, pain, and agony. Get the work done eventually, and then Everything you sell is all digital, and it's 100% margin. So we're talking $4,085 in retail of products. I'm willing to offer your listeners a one-time payment of only $297. All they have to do is email me, and my email is Senoff, Senoff .Michael, Michael, @gmail.com. Senoff, Senoff .Michael, Michael, @gmail.com. If they email me, I'll send them a special order link, and that would include the Joint Venture Magic, Barter Secrets, Licensing Secrets, Walmart Gold, and my Audio Marketing Secrets, $4,085 worth of products for a one-time payment of $297.
My goodness, you cannot beat that. So let me just suggest to run, don't walk. Go get yours now. That's an amazing price. And all that you have to do is email you, Michael, and give them that email address again.
It is Senoff.Michael @gmail.com. Senoff.Michael @gmail.com. Can I end with one more story?
Yes, one more story. Love it, love it.
All right, it's a story about Muhammad Ali. Okay? Another one of my greatest fans. We're creating an information product together. His name is Rob Gilbert. He was at a talk given by Angelo Dundee. Angelo Dundee was one of the great boxing trainers in the history of America. And then following Rob's own advice, after the talk, he started asking questions. And he asked Dundee, who's the hardest working athlete you've ever trained? And he didn't say the best. He said, who's the hardest working? And Dundee said, oh, that's easy, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, he said, was head and shoulders above everyone else in work ethic. And my friend knew Ali was great, but he didn't know he was the hardest working. So that got him motivated to start reading biographies of Ali. And he found this quote in Muhammad Ali's biography. Muhammad Ali said, I hated every minute of training, but I said to myself, don't quit, suffer now, and I could spend the rest of my life as a champion. I hated every minute of training, but I said to myself, don't quit, suffer now, and I could spend the rest of my life as a champion. And I remind your listeners, hurt, pain, agony, don't quit, suffer now, and you can spend the rest of your life as a champion, financially independent, one who controls all their own time, no one telling them when to show up at work, what to do, what to buy, what they can't have, really having control over your life. But you got to put the work and you got to suffer now.
Just do it. I call that pushing past the pain to get to your power, Michael.
And I'll shortcut the process. Hopefully this recording has given you some ideas to shortcut your path. And I know my detailed information products will certainly put you on a path and a shortcut to getting to where you want to go.
That's right. Faster, cheaper. There's one more. I keep forgetting.
Oh, it's up there on the slide.
All right, everyone, that's a wrap. You're tuned in to Talk Show Maven tonight's show, and be sure to join us next Thursday. And don't just listen to this once. You got to listen to it twice, and definitely email Michael and take advantage of that offer. I love the name, by the way, Michael. And go in there and get bartering secrets and all the other things that he talks about. I have those products. They're great. And, again, don't walk. Run over there and grab it now. This is Raven, the Talk Show Maven, along with Michael Senoff, and this is a wrap, y'all. Bye.